Tomorrow I'll email you the number of bonus points I have potentially for you. You don't get them unless, of course, you submit the outlines for chapters 1, 6, 9, and 2. And that's got to be before the exam. It really, I don't know what the word is exactly, but I sort of go mentally ballistic when people turn in their chapter outlines 10 minutes before the practicum. I mean, what are they doing? Didn't budget their time very well, or just forgot? I don't know. So, but I need those 4 chapter outlines before the practicum on Thursday, and I need 2 tests, practice quizzes, I should say. A practice quiz 1 done, and 2. You don't submit those to me directly. You just hit the submit button on the bottom of the page. Now, for practice quiz number 1, there is still one person, as of 10 minutes ago, that hasn't done it. And it just, that drives me crazy. Why wouldn't somebody take advantage of a gimme? I'm trying to show you what the test is going to look like. Then I thought, maybe the person did take the test, but didn't submit it. And if they don't submit it, I don't have a record of it. So I'm going to do something I don't do throughout the course. Well, I'm looking at the names and the person doesn't seem to be here. So I'll have to email him. But one person either didn't submit it, took it. That's just as bad as not taking it, or is not taking it at all. Quiz number 2 must be taken too. And 10 of you haven't taken it yet. The average time spent on that test is 7 minutes, and you can get credit for it in just a couple of minutes. You can get credit for it, although it's not going to do you much good, but you can get credit just by opening up quiz 2. Oh, check a couple of answers. Just
Wait, Professor, are you talking about practice quiz too?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear.
Oh no. I just had to make sure.
Yes, that's it. Practice quiz 1 and practice quiz 2, not number 3. You don't need to turn that one in this time.
Oh, actually?
Yes. If you have, I know some have, it's fine. It'll be
I already did it.
That's fine.
Okay, sweet.
Okay. But just opening the test and submitting it, even with no answers, will get you the credit. So it doesn't take any time. Of course, that doesn't give you any answers either, unless you try them and then submit it, get to see what you got right, got wrong. Many people are taking the test 2 and 3 times until they get all of the answers correct. Okay, I'm going to mute everybody because there's a lot of background here. Okay, what else? So I said I was going to be emailing. And one thing I'm going to email is a list of how many bonus points you have coming if you do these things. And they'll be added to Thursday's practice. The list is going to be your student number that I sent you today, or have sent you already. And then next to it, it'll say potential extra credit. Okay. And then I will add the extra credit on to the Zoom score. Remember, the Zoom score that is reported is not accurate. Okay. The one I sent you is the one that you want. Okay. I've decided on the test on Thursday starts at 2 o'clock. Now you have this time 70 minutes. Not going to give you 80. I just feel that's way too much. And I've discussed that with you before. I'm not worried about your score. I know that I have shown you every question and every answer on that practicum in our class material. So it's all there. It's all there. And as I said, the test won't open up until 2 o'clock, but don't be running around like I was a moment ago and seeing it's 2:01 and I haven't even set up the link yet because I got busy with something else. Don't worry. If you start the test at 2:10, 2:15, or at the absolute latest 2:30, you'll get your full time. Now, after 2:30, anybody starting the test, time is counting down. You're losing time. So the test time is really 2 o'clock. But if you wander in a little late, don't even think a second thought about that. Okay. Now, I cannot release even the Zoom scores, I think, until the last person is finished. We do have a person that is entitled to some more time, so you may have to wait a little bit. That's neither here nor there. It won't change your score. Okay. You'll see your score when I'm finished with it on Thursday evening. And when I say I'm finished with it, I mean I will have added in your extra credit or not if you didn't do it. Okay. You do not need extra credit for an A in the class. You can have all the extra credit and still not pass the class too. Okay, it's just there. Now, how many now are dreaming of bones? Anybody?
I am.
Okay. Jacob, I see you're here. Jacob, you here? No. I got a blank board. I hate that. Okay. When we come back from the break, I'm going to expect everybody, please, to have their video on. It's not fair for me to allow some people not to, and others think that feel that they have to. I really appreciate it. It helps me. It actually helps everything go a little bit easier and smoother. Because if I'm comfortable, you'll be comfortable. Okay. Now, last opportunity for questions.
Professor, so sorry, Charlie. So all the content for the practicum is going to be up to week 3, correct? All that material.
I'll go. I'll tell you what. As soon as we get to the screen, I'll go over it all.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good question, but we'll ask it there. Okay. Let's go. Okay. For the first practicum, the greeting, discussion, assignment, nah, that's nothing to do with that. The lecture material is not directly asked, but as far as anatomical position, you will have to know those words if I use them on the practicum, but there's no questions directly asked about that. Okay. The joints lecture, no. Okay. Now the guide is useful. Has the names of all the things that you have to know, but it's only a guide. It's a single page. The structures of the skull are down here, and it's followed up by the term lab. And you can see what I'm doing now. I'm indenting those subjects or lines that have material for practicum number 1. There is a recording, of course, that you can look and see the whole lab that we did, both lecture and lab. Ossification lecture, and then part 2 of the skull. We'll indent that. Okay. These indentations will disappear after the test. Here's practice quiz 1 that you need, the recording for the second day. And there's a YouTube of the skull that's very good. I don't take questions directly from those, but I think that it really helps to take a look at it. Not going to be indented though. Why not? Because you can get all of the questions and all of the answers from the portions that I am indenting. In the second week, the figure locations, in other words, a list of the parts that you need to know for the vertebra, and then the lab that we did for that. Then the upper appendicular skeleton. And the lab that we did for that. The video that I found on YouTube using the same author, the guy calls himself the noted anatomist. He probably deserves to be called that. He does a good job. Okay. Here's practice quiz 2. That's necessary for the extra credit. In the third week, which we finished up last time, we have our final guide to the lower appendicular skeleton, and then the lab that followed it. This is a YouTube video of that material by that same author. The x-rays, yes, you need to take a look at those x-rays. And I'm going to put the word lab. The muscle tissue lecture is the last one that we had last Thursday. That's not on this test. The recording of the entire day is there. Practice quiz 3 is not necessary this time. If you turn it in, it'll just be waiting for us when I do collect it next time. Okay, and now today. And nothing that we're going to do today specifically is going to be on practicum 3. Unless, of course, you ask me a question that concerns practicum 3 and the answer clarifies something or helps you out. Then, of course, that would be actually review material. And there's nothing to indent here. So there it is, the indented material. Without having to open it, I don't assign a chapter reading just before a test. So this will just tell you for week 4, there is no outline to be done. It does tell you what chapter we're going to do next, though, for those of you who may want to get started. Discussion, leave it. Shouldn't be bothering yourself with anything except for P3. Now, I know for a fact that if you were here, you saw a lot of the questions that are actually on the test. Why? Because I use them interchangeably between the lab notes and what I show you possibly as review material. If you were here, or if you have to review recordings, you will see all of the questions. You will see all of the answers. The trick is, of course, get them in your mind and be able to get them back out again at the right time. I think this one's a dummy here. It's this one that needs to go up. Okay, so for week 4, which is where we are right now, and here's our first lecture this week. I am going to lecture. This lecture will not be on the test on Thursday, okay? But you know you have lecture exam number 1 coming up on the 24th. Okay? I've heard nothing further about opening dates, face-to-face or anything like that. They're being quiet for a while. When they're being quiet, it means they're thinking, did they make the right choice? They're not going to change anything now. Okay, they're going to go with their choice right now, but we have to wait and see. Okay, I told you we will have our test on the 24th, and since you're preparing for a Zoom test, possibly, I'll probably try to get it to you that way. Okay, you'll know next week. Now, okay, let's go to this lecture then, unless you have a question first.
Hey, Charlie, I have a question for you,
Yes.
and it might be a stupid question.
No,
but
there's none of those.
Is the entire test multiple choice?
Yes,
Okay.
it's 100 questions. They're all multiple choice,
hmm
and you can change your answer after you've submitted it. I mean, not submitted it, but put it in. Flag a question that you're not sure of so that you can come back to it. Once you hit the submit button at the bottom of the page, the test is over. So you don't want to hit that.
Okay, so if we go over like all of the sections on Canvas that you said were on the test, like, do you think we should do fine?
You should do very well.
Okay.
In fact, I'm expecting you to do very well. Okay. I've actually, to tell you the truth, given away little pieces of the examination by actually showing it to you without telling you that that's what it was. And somebody will think, wow, didn't I see this? Didn't he show it to us? Is he making a mistake? Now, I show it to you because I know no matter what I do, you guys are going to score in the 90%. Okay. Whether I show you the exam exactly as it is, or if I make up a brand new one or use an old one, your score is going to be high. I'd be surprised if it's not high on this first exam. I don't want to fool you. The second, third, fourth exams for both the lecture and the lab are tougher. Okay. So get all the points you possibly can, including those extra credit points, so that you have them as backup. Okay, we talked about muscle tissue the other day, and today we're going to talk about the myofibro and the sliding filament theory. And let's hope it opens up. Yes, that's it.
Hey Charlie, I have a redundant, I guess, question, but for Thursday, we're just taking the practicum then and we don't have lecture, right?
That's right.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
On practicum days, only practicum days, all your obligation is to come and take the practicum at 2 o'clock or a little bit after if you're running late.
I have a question. Are you going to be going over chapter 9 again at all?
If I go over chapter 9, that's ossification, or is that joints?
Okay.
It doesn't matter. The answer is going to be the same. No, I'm not going to go over it today. I'm not even going to entertain questions on it today. That's lecture material, and I'll be hitting that, just before the lecture exam. Today, except for this muscle tissue, I want to give you something to study over what's going to be a holiday week pretty soon.
On the outline, do we do the whole chapter 9? For some reason, I don't have notes in my book.
Somebody tell me the chapter heading of chapter 9, please. I got my book here, but it's way out of the way.
It's
The name of the
Joints.
chapter.
Joints.
Joints, right. Did I give a stop point for that?
I didn't get it.
I'm talking to everybody.
I think it was above the synovial joints.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's 9.4b, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, cool.
I'm getting my book out. 9. This could very easily, from what I actually gave you, but where I would stop is types of synovial joints.
Okay.
It comes after the photographs of the woman jutting out her jaw and making all sorts of gestures with her feet and stuff. Do you see the types of synovial joints?
Yeah.
Okay, put stop above that. Okay. Okay, this first picture, and don't hesitate to interrupt me. It doesn't bother me at all. Getting no questions bothers me. So if I get interrupted, that's okay. That's a blessing. Okay. We had this picture at the end of last Thursday, and now here it is again at the start of today. So we need to review just a little bit. Here's a muscle cut in half. Where it's cut in half is called the belly. This is the belly here, and it's been cut through the belly. The muscle has a connective tissue coating called the epimysium on the outside. Underneath that epimysium are clusters of muscle fibers that I'm touching now that run as bundles, and they are coated with a connective tissue also that's connected to the epimysium. But now that it's deeper into the muscle where my cursor is moving around, this is called the paramysium. The paramysium surrounds these clusters of rod-shaped cells, and these cells are muscle cells, also known as muscle fibers. They're in a bundle, several bundles here, and one bundle has been pulled out. That bundle is called a fasciculus. This is a good labeling of fasciculus up here, where you see it surrounding the entire cluster. In between the muscle cells is our third type of connective tissue called endomysium. Endomysium surrounds the muscle cells, which cluster together as fasciculi. The fasciculus is coated with the paramysium, and the entire muscle is coated with the epimysium. In the fasciculus, we magically here pull out a single muscle fiber. Here's a single muscle fiber. It's also known as a muscle cell. This little sheath down here is some of the endomysium around this fiber. And then from the fiber, now we can see it enlarged at the end. You can pull out additional rods called myofibrils. The myofibrils are the source of the striations, the lines that run perpendicular in a muscle. We're talking skeletal muscle here. The myofibril has all of the markings. When you push all the myofibrils into the muscle cell, they intensify because they line up perfectly and push the muscle cell back into the fasciculus, and the fasciculus then all the way back into the muscle itself. These markings that we'll see in just a second all line up. And so we get the appearance of striations or lines running perpendicular or transversely to the muscle. How a muscle contracts is really located here in the myofibril. That's the one we need to understand, because once we push all the myofibrils and everything else back in, it's just repetition. So we need to see what the myofibril looks like. Now, if you, for some reason, go to Google and or Quizlets or anything else to look at muscle contraction, I bet you anything that every place you land will have a different description of how the muscle contracts. And it will be quite, possibly anyway, quite confusing. The best thing is to stick with one until you got it down. And if you stick with the one I'm giving you, you'll do fine. Now, I want to look at the myofibril to see what it looks like. The myofibril looks like a solid tube with equal sized and equal shaped compartments. Okay, here's one compartment that's been cut at the end. It ends here at the zigzag. We'll give it a real name in a moment. And from that one, that zigzag to the next zigzag is a compartment. Think of a subway car. You go through the door into the next car, into the next car. They're one after another. And they're all essentially the same. This compartment is called a sarcomere. It runs from the zigzagging line, which is called a Z line, to the next adjacent Z line, which is over here. A Z line can also be called a Z disk because it doesn't just run around the periphery, it runs through like a quarter, like a dime. Okay, it would stand in here between the compartments. So here's the Z line or Z disk. Here's the sarcomere. And here's another Z line or disk. We have basically two types of filaments inside of each compartment. We have thick filaments over here on the right. These thick filaments, okay, extend from a center point called the M line. Here's the M line over here. It's in the middle of the sarcomere. It never moves. And extending from it are thick filaments. Looks like an old TV antenna. We also have thin filaments, and these don't come from the M line. These come from the Z line. The thin filaments, I don't know what color are the thin filaments. What color is this?
Blue,
Green?
blue,
Blue. Okay. And they extend from the Z line. Now, of course, you can notice immediately that the thin filaments and the thick filaments alternate and interdigitate. In other words, like taking the fingers of your two hands, spreading them and putting them in between each other. When the muscle is relaxed, there's no motion of the thick filament with respect to the thin filament. They're relaxed and the compartment, the sarcomere, is as large as it will ever be. When there is contraction, signaled by the appearance of a massive amount of calcium released by the nervous system to the muscle. When there is contraction, these thick and thin filaments move over each other. The thick filament tries to move to the Z line on both sides. Well, it can't. It's anchored at the M line. But it will pull the thin filaments in. The thin filaments can come in, and the two Z lines will be brought closer together. And that means if the sarcomere is getting smaller because the Z lines are being brought in closer together, that the muscle is contracting. The text below it says the same thing that I just did, I hope. The part of the myofiber occupied by the thick filaments is called the A band. Here's our thick filaments again. Now you notice I like this picture a little bit better. It gives me more space over here. Okay, so that I get more motion or movement when the muscle contracts. But here are the thick filaments right here, going to here, and all up and down. This area is called the A band. It stands for a term you do not have to know, anisotropic. Okay, if you're into photography, you probably know it already, but nobody has to know that. This is the A band. And what's in the A band? Thick filaments. Are thin filaments at least partially in the A band? Do you see how the thin filament overlaps into the A band? If you can't see that, I don't know how you're going to answer it on the test. The thin filament, part of it is out here near the Z disc, does not have any A band near it, but part of it is right next to the thick filament. The A band consists of thick and thin filaments. The width of the A band is always equal to the width of the thick filaments. Under the microscope, the A band appears dark because it has a double set of filaments, thick and thin. It's really dense with filaments. So the A band is dark. The next portion is the I band right here, which contains the Z disc, now they're calling it disc, and some of the thin filament that does not overlap the thick filament. This area under the microscope is light. Dark, light, dark, and imagine light, dark, light. And that's how we get our striation under the microscope. The thin filament is shown again over here. The thick filament is shown again here. We have a new term, H zone. The H zone will straddle the M line. The M line is shown as a triple line always. This is the M line, but the A zone straddles it. H zone. Okay, let's start over on the right side. M line, it's referring to this. These anchor the thick filaments. The I band here has only thin filaments in it, and it straddles the Z line or Z disc. The A band has both thick and thin filaments in it. When the muscle contracts, comes in from both sides, the size of the A band will remain the same because it's always equal to the width from the end of one thick filament to its counterpart on the other side. These filaments do not accordion down. They do not squash down. So in the A band, you have both thick and thin filaments, and it stays the same size during contraction. In the I band, which is this clear zone, you have only thin filaments. And during contraction, the Z disc moves towards, or is pulled towards, the A band on both sides at once. And it only contains thin filaments. The I band only contains thin filaments. The I band gets smaller during contraction. The A band does not. The M line is also unchanged. Looking for good diagrams on muscle contraction can be frustrating. I found this one I like though. This is a sarcomere. Here's the Z line. Here's the Z line on the other side. And all of the area in between those two Z lines are the sarcomere. Here's the thick filament. The thick filament is like a double-headed club. It's made of a compound called myosin, a protein, and myosin units come together to form this. They form a rod with small club-like projections. Those thick filaments and those club-like projections almost touch the thin filament. Even if they do touch the thin filament, they will not make a connection in the absence of the calcium that I said was needed for contraction. So right now, they're free to slide in and out. Of course, they can't slide away from the M line because the M line is a stable point, holds everything together. The thick filament on the other side has the opposite orientation. But both ends of the thick filament are in between thin filaments. Now, it may look to you like this thick filament is in between two thin filaments, both of which are attached to the Z line. But that's not the case. They are in between 6 thin filaments. There's a thin filament up here, and we'll call that 12 o'clock if you could look at it from the side. 10 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 2 o'clock on the other side. They're completely surrounded. The head of the thick filament is surrounded by 6 thin filaments. You could say the same thing about the thin filaments. They're each surrounded by 6 thick filaments. So when a contraction does occur, there's going to be a massive amount of touching, of pulling, not just these 2 and this 1, but this 1 and 6 more, and so on, all the way through. When we get the calcium delivered in the signal to contract, there will be a connection established between the thick and the thin filaments. As the thick filament rotates on its axis, it's like a screw or a bolt going into a nut, and it will pull the thin filaments toward it from both sides, pulling the Z lines closer to the center from both sides. One thing we didn't show, but we saw it earlier, the I band, composed only of thin filaments, and it straddles the Z line. The I band gets smaller during contraction. The A band from one end to the other end of the thick filament does not get smaller. This text says the same thing I just said. Here's the summary of terms that you need to know out of this. The sarcomere. Okay, well, I feel you probably have a expression for this, but let me give you mine and I'll go ahead and read it to you. Okay. Sarcomere is the portion of a muscle fiber between two Z lines, two successive Z lines. The Z line itself, these are the partitions within a muscle fiber that section it into the sarcomeres. Thin myofilaments, and if I've used the term myofilaments here, myofibril is interchangeable, attaches to these Z lines. The A band is a completely dark area entirely within a sarcomere. It's composed of thick filaments and thin filaments overlapping. It does not shrink during muscle contraction. The I band, on the other hand, is a lighter area. It alternates with the A bands, straddles the Z line, and are composed of thin myofilaments. Once again, it points out to you that myofilament and filament and myofibril actually are used interchangeably. During contraction, the I band shrinks in its size. The H zone. The H zone is a subdivision of the A band in the center of the sarcomere where only thick filaments are present. And there's no overlapping of the thick and the thin filaments in the H zone, and it shrinks during muscle contraction. Here are the thick filaments in another diagram with these heads that it has on it. The other side, the thin filament up here. I won't use the term bare zone, but that's the same as H zone. Here's our Z line, not drawn zigzag. Okay, we have two basic types of filaments, thick and thin. And we'll start here with the thin filament. Okay, so what we're talking about are these. Even here you see them, it looks like a double chain of beads that has been twisted. The thin filaments attach to the Z line and they interdigitate with the thick filaments. The main thing here that's different is they're composed of 3 proteins, and those are listed here in the diagram. The main protein is actin. Can also be called F-actin. Actin is a good enough term, however. And actin are these clear circles going back the other side, because the two chains of actin that are side by side twist. Okay. You can imagine taking, oh, even the guys can, a string of pearls, okay, pull them tight, take a section that's got 2 strings of pearls, one next to the other, and now twist it. Okay, and so it goes around to all sides. What goes around? The tropomyosin, the second protein, It happens to be the equivalent of about 7 actin units long. We don't need to know that, but it is stable, and it fits right into that groove that is formed by the twisting barber pole that we looked at, or made out of the pearls. Here's tropomyosin here. So when one ends, another begins, and the tropomyosin ends at one end with the third protein, troponin. Troponin. Troponin, look at this top one, is at this end. Troponin is at this end. Well, it needs to be at both sides. We have two grooves between the F-actin chains. When we twist it, we have two curved grooves. And in one side, the tropomyosin and troponin topping it will have the troponin at one end. Whereas in the other groove, it'll run the other way. Helps to make a more uniform thing here and helps in the contraction. So here are the three proteins that make up the thin filament. Here we have it again. A different diagram. Definitely a diagram, not true to nature. Here's the actin. Here's the other branch of actin. Here they have the tropomyosin, and it is topped or finished off with troponin. The thick filament only consists of one protein, myosin. And it has these heads, which I showed you in the earlier diagrams. And when calcium is delivered to stimulate the contraction of muscle, it's only then that these heads can get in and touch the tropomyosin. You would think, oh, they can touch all the time. Well, it's not true. They can only get in when there's a calcium level high enough to stimulate contraction. And then when they can get in, they'll move in, touch, like this one, pull back. This one's going is back. This one goes to touch again, and just keep climbing, like climbing a ladder, except this ladder is sideways. Okay. Now, one end is the origin of this muscle or of this thick filament. It can't move. The thick filament can't move anyway, but the thin filament can, and it's pulled along over these nodules of the thick filament, not just on one side, but on 6 different sides. And it pulls the Z line in. And that, of course, means the muscle is going to contract. One contraction, one sarcomere isn't going to get you any motion. But when you've got a muscle from, let's say, the biceps, okay, how many sarcomeres do you have running from the shoulder to the radius and ulna? Probably in the neighborhood of 200,000. When they all contract, that's when you can flex your your arm. that takes some reading, obviously. And fortunately, you're saying to yourself, it's not on the test on Thursday. Okay, and we have plenty of time to go over it again. Okay, I want to give you a break till 3:15. Okay, I'm going to come back. I want to give you some material for those of you who, after you finish P3, are wondering what can I do now to get ahead, or what can I do now if I don't want to take a rest. Okay, I will get you started on the muscles of the human body and the cat. 3:15. Okay, please come back with your video on. Okay. Okay, anybody with a question? Somebody say something so I know you hear me.
I can
Or I
hear
can
you.
hear you.
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so you want to watch your email tonight and tomorrow. One, because I'm going to be sending you a number that you keep for the rest of the semester. Very simple number from 1 to 31. And also, when I send out the scores, I do it using that number as well. Okay. What I'm going to do for the lab today is something that may not take us that long. I want to get you started on the muscle so that when you have free time, and I don't think you should have any free time between now and Thursday. Between now and Thursday, it's really got to just be the bones, get all those points. But when you do have free time over the weekend and such, you can begin learning the muscles on your own. Which ones would you pick? The ones that you know, the muscles that you know already. Maybe everybody doesn't know the masseter that closes the mouth. Well, then move on. Everybody, I bet, knows the biceps, and you can learn that one. Just pick out the ones that you know, and get yourself a head start, or relax. There are all sorts of possibilities. Had a guy. I've had a lot of Bio 20 students. Were you a Bio 20 student? Just wave your hand if you were. Yeah. Bio 20 at Saddleback or IVC. That was the equivalent of what you had to have to get into this course anyway. But I had Bio 20 students, and they come running into the anatomy lab, and they want to see the cadaver. They want to see the cadaver. Morbid, you know. They just curiosity. They weren't going to learn anything. They just want to see it. I've had some people want to photograph it, put it on their web page, their Facebook page, and then go, well, no, you can't do that. So we definitely, I'd kick them out, you know. But when somebody shows a great interest, that's a different thing, you know. And when I was at UCI graduate school and dissecting the muscles of a cadaver for a class, I think I told you about that class, but I'd be at in graduate school, I'd be there 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. I didn't want any people bothering me, you know, just leave me alone. But there was one person that bothered me in a nice way every night, the janitor. The elevator would open up on the 3rd floor. I could hear his dust cart rattling down the hall. He had a dust broom, dust mop, and I knew it was Mr. Craig. We called him, those of us that knew him, called him Mr. Craig. He weighed about 400 pounds, and I'm serious. He was a big guy. He made that floor shake when he was walking. And he and I would talk, as I said, 3 or 4 in the morning, about a few things. We couldn't talk about anything deep, and I didn't want to anyway. Why not deep? His education was limited to the 2nd grade, had been only to the 2nd grade. He even wore a baseball cap on backwards. This is 1974. People didn't do that, but he did. You know, when you put your cap on backwards, your IQ looks like it dropped 50 points. And he would come and we'd talk about a few things. Nice guy, but it was a little strange. Anyway, he came in one night, early one morning, I should say, and asked me, "What's in that big shiny metal box across the hall?" That was our teaching room. And I said, "It's a cadaver." And he goes and said, "Uh-huh, okay." He walked out the room and immediately turned back in. I guess his pride wasn't going to stop him from asking me. He says, "What's a daver?" And I said, no, it's not a daver, it's a cadaver. It's a deceased person, it's a dead person, it's a corpse. And he goes, "Oh, no, can't be. I would know. I would know immediately if there's a dead person around. I know those things. And I said, "Well, you're wrong this time. Maybe it's the box that's shielding the microwaves from you or something like that," I said. And he said, "Well, I don't believe it." And I said, "Well, come with me." He and I, the only few in the building. I take him over to the room. He can unlock it, but I did. And went over to the gurney with the metal box on it, and I opened it. And he's smoking a cigar, big, gigantic stogie. And he almost dropped it right on the embalming fluid. Oh, we would have had cremation instantly. His eyes huge. He's looking at this. He can't believe it. And I said, "There you go. There you go." And so I started to close it up again. He said, "No, hey, let me look at it. Let me look and see the parts." Well, he was truly interested. And I don't want to deny somebody truly interested in a nice sort of a way, not a morbid way. So I said, "Okay." Took the sheet off completely. Said, "It was a woman. You want to see the convertible chest? You know, you want to see the heart? You want to see the lung?" Yeah, yeah. And I lifted up like the hood of a car, uh, but respectfully. And his eyes got bigger still. And he goes, "What's this? What's this?" And I said, "Those are intestines." He said, "How can there be so many?" I said, "There's up to 26 feet in every person, 26 feet of intestines." He said, "No way, no way." I said, "Sure there are. Here, you take this end, and I'll hold this end, and we'll step back." Well, he refused. Thank God, because he can't do that anyway because of the mesenteries. He refused. You know which end I gave him anyway. But he didn't do that. He looked some more, and then we assembled it again with the sheet and everything, locked it up, and we each went our own ways. I went back to my lab for a while. Then I think I went down to the basement to sleep, because that's where good graduate students spent their time. They didn't go home. They didn't even rent apartments. We just slept down in the basement. So the next day, I didn't know this was going to happen, but the school, UCI, they took the cadaver, wheeled her over to the new physical science building and the new viewing room, took her out of the gurney for the nursing program. I, on the other hand, saw it coming back. I knew it was empty and everything. And it sat in the room all day long. Well, that night, here comes Mr. Craig. I can hear him again coming up the elevator. And I have my door wide open at 3 in the morning. And he's coming. It'll take a while to get down here. So I knew there was one more graduate student in the building, a guy named the Lizard King. That's what he called himself, the Lizard King. His real name was Robin Gorham, and he didn't like Robin, so he called himself Lizard King. Well, I called him up on the phone and said, Bill, that's what he did go by. Bill, come up. He was on the second floor. Come up, I need your help. He said, I'm going home. And I said, I'm not going to keep you long. Just come on up, I need your help. And so he came up, big gigantic peace symbol dangling from his neck, long hair, weird guy, right out of the 60s and early 70s, and tall too. And he said, what do you need? What do you need? I said, in here. And I took him into the teaching room, and he said, well, you know, there's nothing in there anymore. They took it out, took her out today, but where else? I said, I know it's empty, so I don't have to go down to the basement. I want to sleep in the gurney. I want to sleep in the box. So hold it open for me and let me crawl in. Okay, and I got on the drain board that they had there and the little block for the back of your head. And I said, now close up the box, turn off the light, go home and thank you. And he didn't even ask why I wanted to do that. It was just acceptable behavior in graduate school. And so I'm lying in the box in the dark and thinking all sorts of weird thoughts that came about. And here comes Mr. Craig into the room. Today he's using the far door. I can hear it. He usually uses the near door. Well, I'm waiting for him to come over there. You can only guess why. And he's not getting there. He's just, stalling. And then suddenly, I could hear his broom pick up speed. And over he comes. He's going to rush by the gurney real fast as he can. Not faster than me. As soon as he got there, I got my hand under it, lifted it, started to lift it up and said, Craig, help me, Craig. Oh, God. He dropped his broom. It slammed on the floor. He burst out of the room, thinking he's the only one there at all, burst out of the room, and you could feel the earth move as he ran down the hallway to get out of the building. Unfortunately, or fortunately, as it turned out, he quit 2 days later. He quit. But I found him at the elementary school with the same or better job. And I asked him how he liked it there. He said, I like it a lot. There's none of those davers around here. Anyway, you have to make up your own fun. Okay. Now,
How long do cadavers last?
huh? How long? We have some that are 10 years old or more, but we've got also new ones. We've got some new ones as well.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Did you ever tell him it was you?
No.
Oh, you never did.
No.
Oh my God.
I think he would have killed me. No. Poor guy. Yeah, but I just couldn't resist it. Okay. Now, I think we're still on share screen. I'll go to what I told you I would. And it's not going to be this. Okay, I'm still in week 4. And we just finished myofibrils and sliding filament theory for the first time, because I will review that with you. Okay. What I want you to look at are these three things that I don't know why they are sometimes red. They're links. That's probably the reason, but not all the links are red. Okay. And this shows human muscles. It's condensed and required. Okay. This shows cat muscles required. This is human muscles fully expanded. Okay, it has more information, but more than you need. And it's optional. So you don't even really have to click on this link. What I'd like you to do is open that link.
I tried to open that link last night. Those two, I was just kind of looking ahead and seeing like what
Didn't
we're
work.
gonna do. No, it said like you're not authorized or you can't open it or something. None of those work.
Huh.
So maybe did anybody else try that or?
I just clicked on it and it said the same exact thing for me.
Oh, yeah, it says like unauthorized user or something.
Okay. Well, let me check the other one just for the hell of it. And there's always a way around these things. Cat muscles required. That's not going to work either. Is it? Now they always take longer to load up when it's the first time, but I'm not getting anything yet. Yeah, I got the cat muscles. Okay. It's not the one I really want. Okay. I'm going to take you to my website. And when I get that other one fixed, okay, you can come back to it and you can come back to this one. This one does work. Okay. I don't understand why the other one wouldn't, but I'll figure it out. But I'm going to go to Charlie's website. Okay. You have a link to Charlie's website, so there's nothing to stop you from getting started on this, although I don't expect you to start on it before Thursday and Thursday's test. So that gives me time to clean it up. And when you click the human muscles, that's what you'll get. But that's the one that's not required. So I'm going to put the one that is required here. Don't worry about the blank. Now watch what happens when I post this link. Okay, it's human musculature. We name the muscles, the origin of the muscle, the insertion, and the action. The action is going to stay the same. You'll see what I mean in just a moment. The origins and insertions will get abbreviated. So now I'm going there. Okay. And it just says musculature. Now, obviously, I don't want you trying to do workarounds or anything like that. Not yet. Let me fix it. Then I'll send a message out to everybody that it's ready, is finally ready to go. It should have been ready to go anyway. But this would be your human muscle page, required. Okay. And here are the names of the muscles and the origins, insertions, and actions. And look at the insertions, they're cut down considerably rather than naming a small structure. on a bone as the insertion. Instead, you get the bone itself. Much easier to learn this page. The action is always the same for all the pages you look at, whether it's cat, human, condensed, enlarged. You're going to see a page just like this, okay? And like I said, please, after we finish today, don't go looking for it right now. Go back and study your bones. I'll take care of this. The actions are always the same. Okay. Now, let's pick a muscle that you know, or is there one that you know? How about the biceps? No, I don't think that's the best one to pick. I'll take the trapezius on the back. If you were able to slap either of your scapula, you'd have your hand right on the trapezius. Many of you have had your upper back go out. Trust me, that's a lot better than having your lower back go out. But here's the trapezius. I'm going to click on it. Okay, it was muscle number 1. And so here it is over here with a label number 1. Okay, this is the trapezius. You may want to print out that first page for yourself so that you don't have to go back and forth as frequently. Okay, because muscle 2, right down here, this large muscle on the side, this is the latissimus dorsi muscle. Between your shoulder blades here is the rhomboides. So if you put your arms back, try to touch your shoulder blades to each other, you'll be using the rhomboides muscles for the most part. Okay. We looked at supraspinatus fossa. Well, it contains the number 8 supraspinatus muscle, and 9 is the infraspinatus muscle. You're going to be asked to identify these on practicum 2. Practicum 2 is more challenging, a lot more information. I backed up. Okay, there was the trapezius, latissimus dorsi, serratus anterior. Most people don't know that one, but it originates from the upper 8 ribs and inserts on your scapula. It rotates the scapula superiorly and laterally. So shrug your shoulders. In other words, raise your shoulders and bring them forward. Okay, that's this muscle. Let's look at it. It's right here. We also see a repeat, which is always helpful. But number 9, number 8, number 2, number 1 is the trapezius. Latissimus dorsi doesn't show on this one. It's here. We don't need to see it on every one because we have a picture dedicated to every muscle. And there's quite a few muscles. Those that say not required, that means the origin and insertion is not required. But it doesn't mean that the action, what it does, is not required. It is required. Now I could go back to our regular page because we know that second one opens, but I'm going to click cat muscles here. And this one shows it expanded again. So Here's the one on our page. On the cat, you would click trapezius. Okay. The trapezius muscle is a long muscle, triangular still in the cat. Starts back here on the point on the spine. This first part is called the spinotrapezius. Then there's a portion of it, a large portion that covers the shoulder blade, the scapula. And this is the acromiotrapezius. And then there's a portion of it down here, the final portion. It covers the clavicle. It is known as the clavotrapezius. Fortunately for you, I used to test on all three of these parts, but now I guess it's agreed by all the instructors that you just need to know the word trapezius for here, here, or here, no matter where it's pinned. When you see these pictures, they start off looking a little small because they got to have room for the legend. But if you click on it the second time, okay, it enlarges fully. And here's the trapezius, spinal trapezius. Actually, I'll say the whole thing: acromiotrapezius and clavotrapezius. I'll have to back out twice. The latissimus dorsi on the cat is number 2. Okay, and it's this large flap on the side of the cat. And it runs to the humerus. Remember the rhomboides where I asked you to pull your shoulder blades together? That's here. These are the rhomboides. They look more like vents of some sort, like heater vents or air conditioning vents. This right here is the trapezius. And you go down on this, okay. There'll be a change that you notice when I email you. I'm going to abbreviate this section and this section. It's not abbreviated here, okay? But it will be. The best thing that you can do right now, unless it's a muscle that you absolutely feel comfortable with, is try to go through them and identify them on your second go around. Okay. So for instance, the supraspinatus is here. This was the acromiotrapezius. Here's the trapezius, trapezius, trapezius. But when you pull it back and expose it, there's a muscle underneath, and that's the supraspinatus. Here's the shoulder blade going all the way around, and this is the infraspinatus muscle. Okay, so even though this second one works, I'm going to change it. And again, as I said, I'll let you know when that happens. Okay, that's all I really want to do today. I wanted to show you how you could get started, but you need me to clean up that page so it's the way that it should be for you. Okay, I'll get that done. And in the meantime, between now and Thursday at 2 o'clock, you need to get those study guides to me, outlines, Okay. The 2 quizzes need to come in, and just know the bones. Okay, now somebody's going to have a question, been waiting to ask, and they don't want to ask in front of everybody else. So if that's you, you just hang around, and I can help you out. Anybody have a question for the good of everybody?
So at this point, if we pretty much have a good understanding of all the bones and everything, do you suggest the best way to review, would it be to maybe watch the lecture or the lab videos or just look at the PowerPoints?
PowerPoints.
Okay,
I think watching the recording and stuff, that's really there for somebody who had to miss, and or they forget quickly, or they think that they've missed something. Okay,
okay,
but no, the PowerPoints have everything.
got it. Okay, thank you.
I'm glad to hear you feel comfortable. Okay, 'cause that's the way you should. Be sure to get some sleep the night before, though. Don't come to the test
Mhm.
studied and whacked out on no dose or Tyrant or anything like that. Anybody with Wi-Fi issues? Good. Okay, there will not be there wasn't a link today, because as I told you, I got busy sending out those numbers, and I didn't get to it until I got a message, which I appreciated a lot. And it's over a minute late, big deal. There will not be a link on Thursday. Okay, you want to go directly to the Canvas page for our class, go to the modules, and go to the end of module 4, and that's where the test will be. It'd be the last thing on the page. If it's not the last thing right now, it will be the last thing on the page come Thursday. If you have any difficulty during the test that you think is, if everybody's having a difficulty, I'll hear it by multiple emails right away. Okay, and I can get back to you using your common emails and get to everybody. I'm not saying this will happen; it's rare. Okay, but I did have a couple of people whose images wouldn't load up, and working with them, I got them to load up. But it turned out really that in both cases, they did not have good Wi-Fi, and they hadn't tried to correct it ahead of time. Use the Chrome browser, please. Okay, that'll be half your problems if you don't. Okay.
I had a question. Does anybody know where to stop on chapter 12? For some reason, I don't have that either.
I haven't assigned chapter 12.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Isn't it 2? I think 12 then. Oh, that makes sense.
You have probably 1, 2, and they run together.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
So,
I was wondering why I didn't have any marks on it.
okay. Chapter 12, I believe, is the muscles, and that is the next chapter, but it's
Okay,
not
that's
assigned
what I was
yet.
thinking.
Okay. Well, I hope most of you are happy for the weekend and do really well on the test. Okay.
Professor, is there a discussion today?
No,
Okay.
no, not today before the test. No. Okay,
thanks,
there'll
Charlie.
be one next week after the test. Okay, so good. Good question though.
Wait, we will have one after the test?
No, by after the test, I meant next Tuesday.
Oh,
Okay, that's,
wait, oh, after.
yeah. I don't
You're
want
not-
you to, we don't have people finishing the test at the same time,
Right. Okay, that's what I
obviously.
thought.
And especially since we have a person that, or persons that do get some different timing. So that's really difficult to manage. The easiest thing to do is all you do, take the test. Okay. I don't think you can see your score anyway on the grades for Canvas because I took that ability away. I didn't want you to get confused, but you will be able to see your test and you can add up your score yourself if you wish. People sometimes email me and say, hey, question such and such, you said we wouldn't have that. Well, if that's the case, and truly is the case, I look at over everybody's test and anybody who missed it because of that, I give them the points. Okay. And so those have to be added in manually. I've been doing that manual stuff for years and years. I'd prefer to do it than have Canvas notify you of something that's not true. Okay. It's not that they intended it to be not true. They just don't, it's not adaptable to every class situation.
I had a quick question.
Yeah.
So we have class then next Tuesday, or we don't have class next Tuesday, right? Is that an off
Tuesdays,
day?
we
It's
do
the
have
off
class.
day, right? I thought it was,
Tuesday's the 15th.
is it the next, is it the following? I don't have my
Okay.
planner. Is it the following
don't
week
have
that it's a
class.
teacher day?
We have class both days next week.
Okay.
Okay.
I think you're thinking of following Tuesday when it's like President's
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
The
think I'm
following
confused.
Tuesday,
Okay.
the 22nd,
Oh.
is you're off. Okay.
Okay.
And then the 24th, we see where we are. Are we going to be over in the science building? So
Mhm.
obviously it's going to be important to keep in communication. I do get those messages from the school's president. Do you get any messages from the school about what's going on with COVID and stuff?
I think the last one just said that, everything was still on to start
Yeah,
that.
then I said that too.
Yeah.
Right now, everything is still on for face to face. But you'll have been studying for well, either way, at least it's going to be a lecture test that day. And whether we do it, have to do it by multiple choice on Canvas, or I print it out, we do it by multiple choice and use a Scantron, it'll be the same test. No change. And we'll have it. Okay. I think a good tactic would be if you find yourself finished studying or want to take a break from the bones, go back and start the lecture material. Go back and do the lecture material. Don't jump ahead to the muscles yet. Okay?
Thanks, Charlie.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
I'll wait
you.
around to see if there's anybody with a
Thank you.
question.
I had a quick question.
How was the wedding?
Beautiful, nice, tiring. So I am behind and I am going to just wanted to get kind of your input on. So another student had asked like what you think. 'Cause I'm going to go back, I'm going to listen to Thursday. and probably Tuesday, because Tuesday we were doing stuff and I missed half of Tuesday. So just re-listen to the lectures.
Yeah, use the
Obviously.
fast forward button too, though.
Yeah,
When you can, if I tell a story or something like that, you don't
Right.
need to hear it.
yeah. And then, so it's just know all those bones on all those sheets.
That's
full- Just everything.
precisely correct.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
You can do it. You can.
I could do it. I was already, I knew a lot on the skull, so I was like real good on that. So I'll just keep going. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm good. I got it. All right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Charlie.
Bye.
Joshua.
Oh yeah, so it's my first time doing online exam. That's why, I didn't really sign up for online, but we're doing it now. So we showed up on Thursday, right? And then we go on the test and then we start taking the exam.
You go to Canvas
Mm-hmm.
at just before 2:00.
Okay.
Okay. Log in to our class, Bio 11. You're doing that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the test is at the bottom of the page.
Yeah,
The test will pop up and open at 2:00, but not before.
Okay.
And then just multiple choice to answers. You can change them if you want to. When you're happy, hit the submit button. And
Okay.
that's it.
Okay.
That's it for the day.
Awesome. All right. Okay. I just want to make sure I know what to do on Thursday.
Well, you're doing it now.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
I just didn't really like online classes, but I have to do it, because I don't want to hold back.
When they told me I had to go online 2 years ago, I thought, oh, I'm going to quit.
Yeah.
It's time to really retire. I mean, I am retired, but teach part time. I thought, no, I don't want to do that, And it's gotten better. I don't know. It's not going to get worse, at least, unless you got somebody who's running the show for your class who doesn't know how to fix problems when they come up, and problems always come up, But like the one you saw that we just had, I want to fix that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I just really like learning in person, because I get more active, answering questions and stuff.
Yeah, I do too. I think most of the class does. And some don't anymore. They like the convenience of not having to drive or this or that. But I don't think you learn as well. I don't think you learn as much.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I'll see you on Thursday. Okay. Thank you, Charlie.
No, you won't see me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll see the exam on Thursday. Okay.
Okay.
See you next week. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.